Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Martin. Thanks for being here. If you're new to the show, I am a Los Angeles based commodities trader. I trade equities and then I trade options, usually long puts or calls on both of those underlying assets. Um, the trouble is I'm based in Los Angeles, which is in Pacific time zone. The markets I trade are Central Time and Eastern Time, being New York and Chicago for the most part. So, given how those markets open, it's super early for me during the day. I've recently tried Andrew Huberman's morning routine to see if I can get myself to perform better and, more importantly, just to feel better. I want my health always to be good. I'm in my late 50s. So, I don't have all the answers. My main skill in terms of the consulting side of life is in mindset, trader psychology, emotional intelligence. So I try to be my own lab rat to see how I can perform better. If you're new to trading or you're not aware of it, knowing things is always important, but we really get paid to execute. I'm a performance based. My compensation's based on my performance, so I have to perform well. It doesn't really matter what I know. So I tried to put myself in a situation where I can execute at the highest level because my competition is. They're always doing it. Even if those winners rotate, I'm always competing against the best people, even if they're different people every month, every week, every year, this and that. So, again, the difficulty is the time zone changes. Andrew Huberman is a neuroscientist. He's at Stanford. He's an excellent podcaster. His show is Huberman Lab. I don't have a lot of time to listen to 3 hour podcasts like Joe Rogan or Jocko or Andrew's show all the time. But when I go out and do my exercise, I try to have some things going on while I'm rolling my phone calls. His podcast is called Huberman Lab. I endorse it. I think you should go check it out. So one of the things that he speaks about is getting up early in the morning, getting sunlight. Again, I'm in Los Angeles, and the markets start to open for me around 5 o'clock. I'm speaking outcry session. I'm not really big on the pre-market electronic stuff, although you can do it. I have too much size to try to move in thinly traded markets, which are typically in the opening, in the pre-open. So 5 o'clock, and then they stagger some of the other softs, sugar cotton, they start opening at 6 o'clock. The stock market, as you would know, it has a 9:30 opening bell. That's 6:30 here. That's really the last market to open for me. Grains kind of kick in afterwards. So I need to be ready. I need to be alert. I obviously need to be prepared. I do a lot of preparation the night before so that I wake up in the morning. I don't have to try to figure out what the hell it is that I'm doing. So, as far as my trading mechanics and the things that I do in terms of research and preparation, I'm over prepared. I talk about that in my book, The Inner Voice of Trading. I'm giving the audiobook version away, so you can get that link in the description. It was written in 2011. You can get the audiobook version for free, and my trials and tribulations on what I needed to learn in order to get my trading routine down. So I feel pretty confident after 35 years that that part's okay. There's always tweaks to be made, don't get me wrong, but that's not the area of life that I'm trying to work on. As I'm getting older, I'm concerned about obviously maintaining my health. How do I sleep? What about the food that I eat? My physical exertion. What am I doing for cardio? And so, not having a good plan for myself, I said, how can I borrow from somebody who has a wildly successful one that I subscribe to, one that takes into account everything that I'm doing in my life already. I don't have to make gigantic material changes because it's too much to do. I want to make small changes that I can document and keep track of over time, and then review those results and then make small tweaks and edits along the way. If I try to change too much, I won't know attribution, right? When you look at advertisements that you might see on the internet, even like at Amazon, they're probably running two different images for the same product. And they're seeing which one probably has a higher click-through rate, i.e., and then which one leads to greater conversions. It's not always click-through rates that matter, but they definitely, and you know this if you've done a search on Amazon, as soon as you go to the next page, you'll see an advertisement for the damn thing you were just looking at. That's retargeting. But all those images are being tested to get you to double-click your mouse, so to speak, so that you can buy stuff. So I get up at 4 in the morning, and Andrew suggests that I try to get sunlight as quickly as possible. As I'm speaking right here, right now, we're coming on February of 2024. Sunlight and sunrise is approximately 6:50 a.m. So that's almost 3 hours after I get up in the morning. So I have to make an adoption and get one of these artificial lights going early in the morning to let my body know that it's morning and it's daytime and it's time for me to get things going. Um, I've always been big on electrolytes. If you're new to the show, I'm a practitioner of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So there's my exertion. It's not necessarily cardio. It is cardio. It's definitely strenuous. I train 6 days a week. Um, I sometimes teach it when I'm needed. Um, I also have a strong inner game. So the whole thing that Andrew talks about is like having a morning meditation, sometimes called the yoga nidra, for 10 minutes or so. And I have been practicing that. I've experimented with mantra or just like positive statements, as I mentioned in a recent episode of my 10-minute trader talk. Like, I'm so grateful for all my abundance. I'm so grateful for all these outsized gains that come to me. Thank you, trying to stay in a positive mindset. And then time blocking my day to take into account all these different things. Um, Taking an ice bath. I'm working on getting that going. So right now I'm using ice baths in a third party location as well as cold showers. Even though it might not be the same, to me, it's like intentional, right? I'm trying to act intentionally. I've taken ice baths before. I like them. He suggests taking one of, 3 minutes if you can stomach it. Checking out my notes here. And then, making sure the electrolytes, right? Because I sweat a lot when I train. So I need those electrolytes anyway just to have good bodily function. And I use one that doesn't have sugar. I don't want to endorse anything on the show, but there's several of them out there that are relatively affordable. They're kind of tasty, but that's not the point. But I do need a healthy dose of electrolytes, so I do that. As far as coffee is concerned, which he speaks to, uh, he says avoid coffee. Again, you can see this on his channel, which you can do. I'm just telling you, I'm kind of running this test for myself I'm being my own lab rat here. But nothing would be more authentic than hearing it come straight out of the horse's mouth. He's a good podcaster. He's easy to listen to. He kind of cuts to the chase. He has sponsorships, which takes a bit of time, but he doesn't do a lot of throat clearing. I myself don't react well to caffeine. I've certainly had my share of coffee, and I've bought the best stuff. I've had Kona, Jamaica Blue Mountain. I've had the Civet one. If I usually buy stuff for myself, I'm buying the best you can get. But what I found was getting up that early and having an empty stomach, because I'll get to the food part in a minute, it gives me the jitters. And although that doesn't psych me into putting trades on or taking them off because I'm following my rules, I don't like how I feel physically when I have too much coffee. It makes me jittery and it makes me hyper vigilant on things that aren't necessarily material, which aren't on my daily plan. Like, again, I do my preparation the night before. I double check everything the morning of and see and make sure that there's no big catastrophes that would cause me to pull a few stops, orders out of the market, and wait. So what I've done in that space is, after that window of time, I've downgraded to decaffeinated. There is something, we talk about ritual and routine in trading. So there is something very ritualistic about having a warm drink in the morning. Now, I can experiment with that. You can certainly use white tea, which is probably very, very healthy in terms of electrolytes. Green tea is good too, although to me it's even more bitter. I've tried steeping it various amounts of time. So I would kind of downgrade then to the white tea. Cutting the coffee to decaf has decreased the caffeine on a per cup basis by about 2/3 for the type of coffee that I had been drinking. And I can feel it. Again, there's something nice and warm and ritualistic about having a warm cup of something in the morning. But I didn't want caffeine to be, a tool that I needed. Mike, you're such a tool. I don't want that in my life. I don't want to feel like I need a cigarette, or I'm not a smoker, but you've seen people who are like, man, I got to go have a smoke, or you need a cup of coffee in the morning, or they're grouchy. I don't want that feeling in my body because it affects my it affects how I feel, and how I feel is translatable, I think, right into my performance. The goal here is to perform better, right? And also to feel better, have a better, a more healthy life. I don't eat junk food or fast food. I cook my own food. I go shopping. or I have the food delivered if I'm really busy. And I do my own cooking. I don't order, fast food. So I know I'm getting high quality food when I eat. I'm also doing an 18-6 kind of a fast. Why do I do that? Well, if I'm going to have a balanced meal and I overload on the meal, just the quantity of food earlier in the day, or even when I'm feeling a hunger pang, I don't want to bring on the food coma, right? I don't want to have insulin dumps in my body while I'm in the middle of trying to perform better. So the 18-6 fast actually works very well for me because by the time I'm eating my meal, it's towards the latter part of the close for the last market to close, which would be the stock market at 1 o'clock Pacific time. Most of the other markets will have already closed because they're not really open all day. They're only open for 3-4 hours or this and that. They start early because they're in New York and Chicago, but they close early. Stock market is kind of like second to last to open, but it's the last one. I think it has the longest trading day. So at that point, again, all of my stops are already in the market. I already have a great feel for what's going on that day, and I don't try to hijack my orders by thinking I know more, by trying to interpret 1 minute bars, which is, to me, is kind of stupid. I just leave my stops in. I don't try to figure it out on the fly. So the next step as I'm doing this is I am going to talk to my doctor and a few of my friends who are up on this stuff, like my friend Ganja, who you might have seen in other episodes, and figure out what, if I get blood work done, what are the types of things that I would look at, and then measure those, like what are the ranges of what's considered healthy or not. Then I need to work on my sleep. Why is that? Well, if you ask me, are you a morning person or a late night person? I'd be like, yes. I'm one of those people who's both an early morning person and a night owl. I'll get a second wind. Why? Well, I'll usually train jiu-jitsu around 6 p.m. every night. I'll come home and I'll have a healthy meal. Not a big gut stuffing meal, but a healthy meal that's balanced. And I'll get cleaned up. I'll review my notes that I've already prepared earlier in the day. Because again, the market closes at 1. I got plenty of time to prepare, do a post-mortem on the day, be ready for the next day. And then, lay out my plan. Because I think having a plan, again, is intentional. You need, intentions equal results, right? So I'll do that. Then I'll get cleaned up. And then what happens is, again, because the time zone change, we're 12 hours difference from like India, Hong Kong and Tokyo. So those markets are kind of opening given the time zone change the next day. So of course, curiosity kills the cat. I'm out here checking out the other markets. And now I'm starting to get into like phase 2 of a second trading day within a 24-hour period of time. So then I'll start to think, I'll interpret the data, like if the market opens weak in Hong Kong or in Tokyo or in London, what is that going to do and how will that affect the US markets? Because you can see, S&P futures, for example, trading overnight. And so then my mind starts to churn. That's the last thing I really want to have happen. So I have to break. That's a habit I'm trying to break, is that if I'm going to focus on US markets, either I have to hire somebody to watch my orders or to create some parameters where I can A/B test a few things and see like, okay, if there's a big sell-off overseas or a big rally overseas, how does that translate to the American markets? And can I do some Bayesian statistics to see? Because then when I go to bed, I don't want my brain churning, because I have to try to go to bed around 10 o'clock Pacific time, which is early for me. I'm one of those people who don't need a lot of sleep. I know that that's probably not healthy, but I need to figure that out. So in the sleep side of things, what I know I need to do is go to bed at a specific time and lock that in no matter what. And that might mean not even looking at the screens aside from doing like my second take. You do a double take on my preparation for the next day's trading. And then do the sleep test. I know there's like a ring you could put on it, this and that. So this is something that I'll come back to over time because ultimately, yes, health is a priority and then performance is a priority. So if any of this can help me perform better and give me the health benefits that we know scientifically are proven to give me, then I win. Then I got one of those 5-to-1 style asymmetric payoffs. It's going to require some change. The change is difficult because I'm a creature of habits. And my habits have gotten me great success. You know, I have great intuition. I have great insight on things. I'm always studying, but now it's like, okay, this is something that's been hard for as long as I've been in California, is to be like right on the straddle where, I can see the next day's opening in other markets overseas and how that could translate to the American markets where I primarily do all my work. So that's going to require some stuff. The other one was going to be, getting the sunlight. I'll have to use the light, but then I still think that there's wisdom in getting outside and getting some light cardio, perhaps in the morning, maybe doing a power walk. So I can envision using that artificial light and get that going in the morning, wait for the stock market to open, and then maybe 7:30 Pacific time, which would be 10:30 East Coast time, I could throw on the shoes and go out and do like a 45-minute power walk and have my stops in the marketplace already, ready to go. And that's it. If you like this video, there's a bunch more over here you could check out.